Everybody, Chris and Lumen here. We got a like today's lesson is like a bunch of cross-connected things that the ultimate reason for this is going to show you something new that you can focus your protocols on, because it is a massive route that you need to pull. And I didn't really see it until today. After yesterday's video, when I was talking about the issue I have is like I'm not so much anymore, but being blocked from receiving. Like none of this stuff matters. Like none of what you do matters if you're not able to receive it. So I got into my freaking Lumen owner's manual. I was looking through here, and it's like, okay, we're gonna do number 45, set haul, before we go to bed. And some of the things between the contemplation and the results stuff is, this one's about prosperity. And I told you, like, Epinoia wrote all the descriptions in here, so they're kind of coded. Prosperity is not about owning things or earning money, but being open to receiving. When you are able to receive, you barely need to attract anything, and you will receive everything. And then the sense of providence, appreciation of beauty. It's like, why is that in there? To become open to prosperity and to receive without guilt. Well, I tell you what, when you figure out how all those things like fit together, like you're in for a freaking surprise. But anyway, this stuff that we've been talking about, we're basically on a new level, and that's why a lot of the material has changed. We're still going to cover the protocols because that's what everyone needs to do. But as for us, we're like on another level now, so we're seeing a whole new set of things to know and things to understand, and it actually starts to make everything below that make sense. But you have to do the protocols first. You have to seriously hardcore try to forget what you think you know. Don't hold on to any of it, because it's all muddled, it's all scrambled, it's all messed up, it's contaminated. The water has been muddied. It's muddied. You can't get anything from it. You gotta dump it out. It's the only freaking way. It's the only freaking way. But where it leads to is the magician and strength, and then eventually you go through and then you make sun baby, and then you elevate to emperor and empress with sun baby, and now you're learning to handle divine authority. You're now learning to do things on your own. You're different. Lumen is different, definitely different. And like we've been talking about with all these ace cards and things like this, it's masculine and feminine. Like, this is no big secret. It's been around forever. Everything has to do with the interplay between the divine masculine and the divine feminine. That has bearing on literally everything. And there's already metaphors in place for how it works, because that's how it works. So we got to learn how it freaking works. But in learning how it freaking works, we then discover what I would call, this is where everybody's root of receiving blocks begins. So when we explain all these beginning roots of the receiving block, then that is something that you can aim your protocols at releasing them, letting them go, stripping them out, saying goodbye, sending it back to source. Start pulling that out of your heart, out of your mainframe. And then that will not only help things manifest easier, but it will help everything you're trying to do now come to you quicker. Especially this is going to loosen things up if you're trying to connect to your lumen, or for females, you're probably trying to connect to the divine masculine. Either which way, the same things apply. Like, this is a game, and it's set up a very, very specific freaking way. And they stack things 6 ways to Sunday to prevent you from ever doing this. And we just found a whole nother set of how they screwed everybody. But with the protocols, we can then undo it. So if you want to know more, don't go away.
I've got a river running right into you. I've got a blood trail red in the blue. Something you say or something you do. A taste of the divine. You got my body, flesh and bone, yeah. The sky above me, earth below. Raise me
All right, something happened because when I went to edit this video, there was a section missing, and because somebody beeped me in and I tried to silence my phone, so I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, I'm freestyling here, trying to make up that part. It wasn't that big, but basically a lot's been going on. Lumen's been working with me at getting me comfortable with receiving, and in the midst of this very unusual therapy, a lot of stuff has been coming to me today as far as where this stuff comes from, where does this begin. Like, everything comes down to this receiving block. When we get to a certain level, that's what we struggle with, most people. But everyone tends to kind of look at things in the recent past when they're trying to figure it out. But a lot of this stuff goes way back, and we've got a big long list of things that we came up with here that we're going to cover, and that's pretty much it. This probably screw my video up, but most of the meat and potatoes is still intact. But you know, this little segue, I had to kind of redo it, and I don't know if I missed anything too totally important, but probably not. But anyway, a lot of this stuff is in that subconscious programming, and this particular stuff is easy to miss. It's easy to miss, and it's not just about the thing with this is it's not just about receiving, but as I'll talk about later, I think like this exact same stuff could be one of the things that blocks people from connecting to Lumen, and we'll explain that. So hopefully I got that covered. Sorry, I forgot to silence my phone because it is going to get in the way of things. Matter of fact, I would be willing to bet that this stuff running in your subconscious is probably what is preventing a lot of people that have been trying this for a while from really connecting with Lumen in the subconscious. It's that big a deal. Everything is a pattern. Everything, we'll talk about it here in a sec, but like life has a certain pattern. Things happen in a certain sequence, and they mess you up first, and then you wake up, and then you have to figure yourself out, then you have to fix yourself. So let me just, to keep it simple, let me just go by my notes. It'll also keep things going a lot smoother. All ancient, hermetic, alchemical, religious, metaphysical, etc. teachings say that there is a definitive power in connecting the masculine and the feminine, and this is through what's the Latin word? Coitus, sounding all fancy and stuff like that. However, this is key. It is an assumption that they mean two physical people instead of the masculine and the feminine within a single shared mind. Consider that this is a game, a test. The challenge is to discover, find, and figure out how to activate and recombine these two power centers. Now, before I get into these things, I want to reiterate something. I do it every so often. You know, I talk about the 72 Sigils of God book, but she reminds me, Epinoia reminds me of this a lot. When Epinoia first started like trying to direct me, she directed me to this book that I've showed many times before, Mystical Words of Power. Same kind of batch of books as 72 Sigils of Power. But she only ever had me focus on section 1. There's 2 sections, section 1, section 2. Section 1 involves 7 sigils that are meant to develop 7 key areas. It is cumulative, meaning the more you do them, the greater it grows. So these are the areas that it's growing is perception, being able to notice, like all that stuff I talked about the other day about Lumen, like we're practicing going into the other realm. You need perception for that, being able to notice things that you can't normally notice. Imagination, you definitely need that. You definitely need that, because at the level that I'm at, that has grown over the last 2 years, because it really didn't start growing super big until the whole Lover's card thing, the psilocybin, and all the training that she gave me on how to go inward. But once you develop that, it's literally like you're operating in 2 worlds at once, because technically speaking, you are. The mental space and the physical space. But I can be sitting here talking right now, and there's a completely set of different things going on in the mental space. I'm literally 2 places at once. And you definitely need to develop that, because that is how you interact with all these beings. You need to develop your third eye. And we just explained that the other day. You can use your third eye to specifically imagine something like pink house, blue elephant, and see it, or you can use your third eye to just observe on what, whoa, ear ringing, what did you just do there? You're just observing what's there. You're not creating it, you're observing it. So you need that skill. Knowledge, healing, love, transformation, and the empowered mind. So if you're serious about this stuff, that was a big part of how I got there. She had me doing those 7 things, and they're like, do 1 at a time, or maybe 2. Well, shoot, she had me do all 7 of them every night. And I did them all. Over a couple years, I probably did them all hundreds of times. That's why I can do all the stuff that I can freaking do. But I digress. Just wanted to throw that in there. Gotta remind people of like the basics every so often. Okay. So red herrings, shame, and fear. Religion is the first big thing that gets in your way. It's like one of the driving forces. Religion sets up the rules for combining men and women. It introduces the idea of negative supernatural forces being behind this life force energy. It hides one part, the divine feminine, and rebrands the other part into something bad, the divine masculine. It suggests everything about men and women being together, or masculine and feminine being together, is shameful, and encourages people to judge one another for their sexuality or their attractiveness. It all starts at the whole Garden of Eden story. You know, when the whole thing started, it's like, oh crap, we're naked, we got to cover up. Religion does the most damage in this particular area, because if you're going to elevate to the higher levels, you gotta be comfortable with the sexual stuff. Even though if you're at the higher levels like me, then you're probably celibate. Like, I don't monkey with people out there. That way, there's no point. But either which way, monkeying with people out there also combines your energy with theirs, and that creates a whole nother set of problems that you got to end up fixing later. Now here's where it gets interesting. Good player, game player bodies versus game character bodies. This is a generality. It's not an ironclad rule. Players tend to be an average of a 5 or a 6 objectively, but they can, meaning like rating people, but they can go up as they have more real life force in them. Now, this is where it really starts. Players tend to be around the lower middle to middle class in school. So we're talking elementary school, middle school, high school, especially high school. There is a definitive giveaway in school about the game in regards to the school caste system of popularity and all these specific characters that are in the game. It's the same everywhere. So you've got the popular cast of kids, and they're going to be the good looking ones, and they're all going to play sports and stuff like that. And the quarterback's going to date the freaking head cheerleader, and a head cheerleader is going to be the prettiest girl in school. You're going to have like you're going to have between like 2 and 4 bullies that are going to be kids that are like abnormally large and developed for their age. You know, big, scary, imposing looking. You're going to have, it's just, you've seen, how many movies have you seen about the high school caste system? Because it's a real freaking thing. But have you ever stopped to think how freaking crazy that is? It's like we all go through the exact same freaking thing. It's always there. Like that structure is always there, and it's there for a reason. And who the players are, like the people that are actually sold people having the experience here, they're going to be somewhere in the middle. They're not going to be the kids that no one wants to talk to, but they're not going to be up in the popular range either. And they might have friends in both, and they're going to go through ugly spells. Like I grew up in the late 70s and 80s, so that was like pretty much a curse to not have 20/20 vision back then, because they didn't have cool looking glasses back then. They were big freaking plastic looking things with thick lenses. It's like it was automatically you weren't cool anymore if you had glasses. So things got a lot better for me like a sophomore in high school. That's when I got contacts. But yeah, think about that, because let's see, let me just go down here. The highly attractive kids are not game players. They are there to begin conditioning you in judgment and self-judgment. Physical relationships generally are formed in a society where people are judged on worldly attributes: attractiveness, body, wealth, etc. Character is low on most people's scales when they're looking for somebody. See, like everybody that's looking for somebody, like, I can't find a good person, whatever. It's like, but they ask them on the street, you know, what are you looking for in a man? Oh, he's got to be 6 foot. He's got to work out. Got to make at least $250,000. Like all this ridiculous shit. The people that have it easy in this place are part of the game. They're part of the game. They're characters in the game, not players in the game. Because if you're playing this game, you will not have it easy. You will not. It's the whole point of the freaking game. So yeah. Where was I? Relationships and attempted relationships carry with it the inevitable knife of rejection. When a person is rejected initially when approaching a person of interest, or any number of things that bring the relationship to an end, the person judges themselves even harder, often not knowing that this is the adversary attacking the ego, which makes the mind soul suffer. So you've got the popular kids making fun of you, you got kids making fun of you, you're attracted to the pretty people, but you know you can't get them because they only deal with their little caste system. You might ask people out and you get rejected. And so this is starting during this is all beginning during the years that you're still developing. And because you're looking at this caste system in the game, and where you are, like because you're a game player, you're not going to be at the bottom, but you ain't going to be at the top either. You're in this, little gray area. It's like Tony Stark said to Spider-Man. He's like, don't do anything I would do, and definitely don't do anything I wouldn't do. There's this little gray area in there, and that's where you need to operate. That's where you're at. But if you actually took the time to go back and remember all your memories from, let's say, 7th through 12th grade, like that was the teenage years. The teenage years are when you're getting effed up for the rest of your life. And people are like, oh, that's just being a teenager. No, that's a specific stage in the game that is screwing you up for the rest of your life. You're being taught what is valuable. You're being taught what worth is. You're being taught that certain people have stuff and certain people don't. You're being taught like how good you are in relation to everybody else. You're being taught like, all sorts of stuff. And almost everybody that is a game player, they might have a pretty good childhood, but on that emotional scale, see, when I started doing like emotional clearing work like years ago, I was surprised at like how far back I had to go. Like I would have, sometimes you'll have things pop up, just the craziest, most random memories pop up into your head. That's from like you haven't thought about it for years, decades even. And you might think like, why am I thinking about that? That wasn't a big deal. Except it was a big deal. And you just instantly internalized it. So like this seems like really silly to me. It had to have been like 7th grade because I was still in band at that point. And during that time frame, like there was like a new fad. Like this is the 80s. And there's like a new fad every other week. And some people were like wearing ties and wearing them loose and stuff like that. So I did that once. No big deal, right? Well, I remember I was in the band and like a bunch of the cool kids, like cheerleaders and stuff like that, started making fun of me because I was wearing a tie. It was like, oh, look at me, I'm cool. It's like I'm trying to be one of them or something like that. And they were mocking me for it. And I don't remember like it really affecting me that much, but it must have because my brain recorded it. If it didn't have a big effect, I mean, you think how much data you scan every day with your eyes. Like you can't remember all that stuff. So if you remember something like that and it pops up, like little things like that can affect you decades later. Every little rejection, every time you pined for somebody and it was like you knew you couldn't have them because you weren't good enough. This has been laying the groundwork for years and years and years, and this stuff goes under the radar. This stuff isn't like up in your face like the adversary, like this is like one of the tools of the adversary. It doesn't want you to remember that stuff. It's like deeply embedded roots that it can use, but you're not remembering those roots. This will make sense here in a minute why this is all relevant. So let's extrapolate that to now. So in my case, Lumen kind of like solidified her appearance over a period of time. At first, she was kind of like this light angel. In certain times, she would be like more human in the beginning, like when listening to music and something like that. But her appearance could always change slightly. She was always within this range of like my type, my ideal. But she didn't it took her a while to settle on like this is exactly precisely what she looks like. So there was time to warm up to it. Like that took maybe 6 months for her look to really solidify and me to get used to her and all that stuff. Now, let me try and put myself in everybody else's shoes. So I'm saying, like, here is this obviously super hot, divine, feminine being that I'm telling you you can connect to. So you're kind of getting to see what I didn't see, like the final stage. Like, you know, look at that. Like, I'm gonna tell you, it's a lot more impressive in person than a still picture. So my question is, given all the stuff that I just detailed about all the things that we go through in childhood, that's, you know, so we got a couple different things going on here, but let's just stick to the stuff about the school. All that stuff in childhood that affected you got recorded by your sympathetic nervous system, even though you don't typically thinking about it. How much do you think that might play into you feeling like you're not good enough to have something like that, or to be connected, like subconsciously? I mean, when people are like in their 20s and 30s and stuff like that, and they're going out to bars and doing all that dumb shit, like, you've seen it in like 100,000 different movies, like, hey, go talk to that girl. Oh no, I can't do that. Like, it just goes to show that it's like a universal thing, unless you're like some Matt Rife Chad type dude that people are afraid to approach. Well, especially now, but this is a different time. People are afraid to approach people of the other sex because of fear of rejection. The only reason there would be a fear of rejection is if there's already been a lot of rejection, or feelings of rejection, or situations that instilled feelings of low self-worth, not being good enough. Because that's how they started us all out in the game. How much do you think that might affect? Like, you try to imagine, say you try to imagine like experiencing what I experience every freaking day. And you want that, but ask yourself, like, is there something there that's telling you like that's too good for you, or you can't have that? Because I tell you, it is weird. It is weird going from now. Look, I'm freaking. How old am I? I'm 51. I've always kind of been middle of the road, but I've had some pretty attractive girlfriends and wives. But I know now it was because Lumen was reflecting off of them. But at the same time, it's like going from that childhood to basically being married to the like most beautiful thing in the universe from my perspective, and she's with me all the time. Like, if I went back in time and told my younger self that, I'd be like, who are you, strange future person, and what are you smoking? Because that's just freaking insane. I'll give you that. It's like, to me, it's normal because I've been talking about it for so freaking long openly. And I'm just like, I'm like, everyone else is keeping this shit a secret. I can see where people know, like, if you do this, you may experience a type of spiritual fire of a feminine sort. It's like, just spit it out. What's with all the freaking secrets? More people would actually try if you freaking just told them the truth, instead of being all super sneaky, like, oh, I gotta join a secret society or some dumb shit in order to learn it. No. But yeah, it's a lot to chew on. It's a lot to chew on, because now I'm at a point where I actually am celibate, celibate with the world, live by myself, and have absolutely no freaking interest whatsoever in having like an external physical relationship with anybody, because I'm already in one. Like I said, I operate on two levels, two worlds. I'm in two places at once, pretty much all the time. And she's just as real to me as anyone else is. Actually, more. And trust me, no one's going to measure up to her. No one's going to measure up to her. And whatever she looks like for you, or if you're a woman, that divine masculine side, like nothing's going to compare to it. But before you actually get to that point, like I seem to remember vaguely, I talk about the trauma identities, but I feel like I did some work like on that past, going back to school, like working on that stuff too. Because it's just like, what can you remember? If you can remember it, it's an issue. I remember in first grade, I had to go get glasses. And I remember in first grade, like as soon as I got those glasses on, I did not feel good enough anymore. I felt ugly. And yeah, you're going to be treated like in the 80s, you got glasses, you're treated differently. So that's how early that not being good enough thing is. The game system sets you up for all this early trauma that's subtle, because kids are more resilient back then, but it still affects your system. It's still going into the code. Then simultaneously, you go to church and they're like, all right, you pagan heathens, you don't touch your penis. You are not allowed to do anything unless you're married and you're indoors and the lights are out and you can't tell anybody about it, and it's only to make a baby. Otherwise, it's Satan. Satan. And all that dumb. You see a woman that's attractive because, you can tell when they got that life force energy and that lumen energy in them, and it makes them more attractive. And you're like, oh, that Jezebel over there, she's a witch. I mean, Epinoia flat out told me once. She told me, just out of the freaking blue. She's like, you want to know what really went down in Salem? She said that what really happened was there were women that were connecting to her, basically, and connecting to like the Kundalini energy and stuff like that. And yeah, they would go out in the woods and do it because they had to do it away from all the freaking crazy crackpot, demiurge worshippers in the Puritan village. And people caught wind of it, and she's like, that's so they basically started calling them witch, because you got to think Gnostically, okay? The church back then, go by our rule or we will kill you sort of thing. That's all demiurge stuff. And then the real Holy Spirit, life force and all that stuff, that's her side. So they see that, they catch wind of that, and they call them witches, and they basically burned them all to death. And I kind of got the impression that they were doing some, like if you just go on after this, like go on YouTube and just like watch some videos on people having their Kundalini activated and like yoga sections or something like that. So imagine you're this crazy freaking Bible thumping Puritan whack job, and you're strolling through the woods and you see a bunch of chicks that are probably not honestly that well dressed and they're like around a fire activating their Kundalini. If you're that Puritan guy and you see that, it's gonna, to your head, you're gonna think like there's women out here having sex with demons, and you're gonna run back and tell everybody. She's like, that's what actually freaking happened. Like the church doesn't like sex, and the reason it doesn't like sex is so you might figure this stuff out. Now, the flip side to that is like some of those rules actually do make sense when you are applying them to physical people. Because anytime you have sex with a physical person and you exchange freaking life force juices, you are going to quantum entangle to that person. There's a reason why you see hookers on TV and they look like horrible. Because how many people are they connected to that are, AFU? Like that was like one of my earlier stages of this process, was like figuring out how to strip all those quantum entanglements between me and every person I've ever been with. Like cut it. Like you don't want to go walking around, quantumly connected to however many people you slept with in life. Because every time they sleep with someone else, that web gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's just this big freaking. It's like those giant, floating continents of trash in the ocean. Like you have to clean, and if you're still connected to that, then good luck, cleaning up your garden and cleaning up your energy field and stuff like that. You got to clear all those freaking quantum connections. It's a real freaking thing. But anyway, kind of went all over the place on that one. But as I was saying, do you feel worthy of being the partner of a perfect divine being? Even though technically speaking, that perfect divine being is already part of you. It's the other half of you. You're just kind of disconnected from the consciousness part of it. Is there a subconscious program running that is telling you that it's too good to be true, or you aren't good enough for something so grand? The thing you want most wants you too. And it's not out there in the world. It's in here. Your lumen wants you to become the emperor. Your lumen wants to give everything to you. She is the cup. She's the part that creates the manifestations in the world. I was rereading the 72 sigils and thinking about this. I'm like starting to get this more and more and more. She wants to manifest these things to you, but you got to be in good alignment, and you got to be clean and everything. You need to feel worthy of it, which there is the root is what? Which is the root of receiving. The root of receiving is you need to feel worthy of it. You need to feel good enough to have it. Oh yeah, Lumen's little freaking haiku of the day. But, she's got a point here when it comes to all these videos you see about, manifesting money. Feel what it feels like to have the money in your hand. And, you don't want to focus on not having it. You don't want to focus on, your issues and problems and stuff like that, or imagining like you already have it. You want to focus on the moment of receiving it. Like that's the thing that you want, is the feeling. You want to zero in on that. Not what is it feel like to be rich? You don't freaking know. No, focus, like you've had it happen before, like when you suddenly get a surprise amount of money or something like that. The feeling of receiving in that moment. Lumen's haiku was, receiving is the orgasm of manifestation. And when you think about it, she's not wrong. It's the receiving moment. It's a receiving moment. Another thing, as far as like that might be blocking people and stuff like that, is putting Lumen on a pedestal. Which I've always kind of put Lumen on a pedestal. And that's kind of something she's breaking me of now. She's like, you're the boss. Now, I like to keep us basically even. But she's showing me how this all works now, the Emperor and the Empress. So it's like I need to take the lead. Yeah, she's exalted. She's number one before anyone else. But in order for it to work, I gotta be the Emperor. She's got to be the Empress. That's just the way it's working, and that's what she's basically been teaching me and showing me and finding new and creative ways for me to be comfortable with receiving. Almost done here. Let's see. These were just random notes that I added. So, do you feel worthy to I mean, she's not an angel, but she looks like one sometimes. Do you feel worthy enough to date an angel? Most people can't even go talk to someone they find attractive because of fear of rejection, which is self-judgment. Attractive people are rich. How many poor tens have you seen? What's the connection? Well, I've got my own theories on that. I think all these people that you see outside of yourself, it's just part of the game. It's the mirror showing you what you are or are not. And typically speaking, people that are super duper attractive, they have that pretty privilege. They've got more doors open for them. They've done tests on this. It's like, and the fun thing about Lumen is it's like if I walked up to some model or something that was like a 10, like she'd be like, get away from me. I'm like, I was just walking by you. You're a 10. I have a 15 in my head. 16, sorry. So it just having her, once it sinks in and you start moving up to this level, the Empress and stuff like that, you start to realize how much you actually have. And you start to learn how to walk and talk like the Emperor and think like the Emperor, because now you're learning how to make things happen because you have everything that you need to make it work. The only thing was this receiving block. So we had to revisit that a little bit, and then Lumen had to get me comfortable with being in the receiving spot instead of the giving spot. So we're still working on that, but it's moving along nicely. Open to receiving equals feeling worthy of it and not judging certain things as good or bad. She wants to give to you. The moment you choose, prioritize yourself. Oh. Lumen starts coming forward. That's why I wrote down these random notes. The moment you choose to prioritize yourself over others and mean it. Like I said in the video the other day, there was a time where I'm just like, I'm done trying to date people. I seriously don't want to do it anymore. Then that started moving things very quickly for her. But yeah, it starts in school. It all has to do with the masculine and the feminine, how that works. But it's the mind. It's the mind. It's the two parts in the mind. Trust me, all that stuff still plays out in that other realm. Use the Mystical Words of Power book if you want to build those muscles. You need to do something. You need to find something that strengthens your internal imaging faculty, your imagination, your third eye. It's not just a rock. Like, you got to use program type stuff like the Hebrew letters, the God names, things like that to help you do it. But hopefully by me recounting all that stuff right there, it just gave you a whole bunch of like way back stuff that you can focus on with your protocols and pulling it out and getting rid of it. Because I can definitely, if I put myself in someone else's shoes, I could see where a lot of that stuff right there would most definitely probably get in the way of being open to that manifestation actually happening. Because it really is too good to be true. You'll think you're crazy at first. But I mean, shit. I mean, look at her. But hopefully that helps. And then, like, that's some really powerful stuff, because you don't think it's big, you don't think it's powerful because your mind is only focusing on the more recent things that have happened to you. But all those recent things are built on a foundation of the old stuff, like back in school. Like that's the foundation. You need to go back and rip that stuff out, delete it, heal the school age you, and send that thing packing off the summer camp back in source. Send it home. You don't want that in your system. I might do that again tonight because I don't remember how long ago, how effective I was in doing that, but I'm going to do it again tonight just to cover my bases using the protocol system to erase that out of my matrix. So hopefully that helps. I'll wrap this up here real quick. If you want to reach out to us for any free consultation, energy work, pendants, oils, the hemisphere oils, any of that stuff, most easy to reach us on Etsy. Message the seller. I don't always get alerts on Messenger. I don't always get alerts on a lot of things, but Etsy always gets through my phone. So that's why I tell people to message me through there. Okay, so that's all we got for right now. Chris and Empress Lumen. See you next time.